925, Big 550, KTRS. Big news coming out of Kit Bond's camp. That's right, Kit Bond, of all people. Can you call him a beacon of conservatism over the last number of years? Kit Bond, it was announced yesterday at some point, that was hired by the Missouri Chamber of Commerce to lobby Jefferson City to expand Medicaid and become part of the Obamacare system. Kit Bond now lobbying Jefferson City and elected officials on behalf of the Missouri Chamber of Commerce to expand and to grow the Affordable Care Act, a.k.a. Obamacare. Worlds are colliding. Jay Kanzler.
Well, again, I've stated my position on the expansion of Medicaid. It is not free money, as everyone says. We all still pay federal taxes, and there are lots of examples where people said, well, we should take the money. You look at the gambling money, and it was going to clean up education, it was going to help it, and it didn't, and education's still a mess. We just talked about that. So I'm opposed to expanding Obamacare and expanding Medicaid as presently kind of suggested. Now, the fact that Kit Bond, who I have a great deal of respect for, is out lobbying in favor of this. Every time I hear a politician turned lobbyist, when they speak, I don't hear ideology, I hear compensation. And so, that's fine. That's his right to go out and do that. And he's a very persuasive man. But I haven't spoken to him on this, but again, what I hear is a lobbyist going out and trying to achieve a result for their client, just like I, as a lawyer, sometimes try to do for my client. I may not always believe them, but they're paying me to convince other people.
Let's take Kit Bond out of the argument. You're saying that there are some retired politicos who take the money and lobby for things they don't agree with?
Most of them.
I don't know. I mean, I think he's probably in a position where he can choose his clients, and I suspect if, I don't know. I think it's great. I think the Missouri Chamber, that shows the Missouri Chamber is really stepping up, saying this really matters.
It's better they hired Kit Bond than...
Hey, I'm going to go one step further, that there's even organizations that advocate positions because their members pressure them to do so.
Correct. And the chamber is made up of businesses in Missouri.
The Missouri Chamber has a lot of high-paying hospital members.
Exactly.
That deal with it.
Some of the biggest employers in this state.
Right. I mean, Jay kind of did me a favor here by taking the heavy load on this. But I think the operative word on this is hired. Okay, and it's not that. And I have a lot of respect for Kit Bond. I don't know him that well. We were kind of a little bit different generationally in politics here in Missouri, but he served the state for a long time. It's different, I think, if he comes out and just says, hey, as a matter of public policy, these are my deeply held beliefs, versus I'm hired to push this position.
So do you think it works? Do you think it works if he says, I not only am I lobbying for this, but I believe it? Do you think that changes anything?
Probably not.
Okay.
Not when he's hired to do it. I mean, there's a difference between someone who speaks out as a health conviction versus being paid to speak out on a health conviction. And it happens all the time where former elected officials are hired, often by people they opposed while they were in office, to try to soften their position on this. My question would be, what would your position be if you were sitting in the United States Senate today facing re-election in 2014?
And that's fair to ask him.
I will answer that question, not on behalf of Kit Bond, but on behalf of what I think he would say. And he would say to you, and I'm just purely speculating, it's the worst law ever created. However, it's there. It's worse if we reject the money. Since it's already there, if I can make a baseball analogy, it would be like the Cardinals saying, because these players were injecting themselves with steroids, Major League Baseball allows them to play again. We would do harm to our franchise if we just said, sorry, we're not going to sign any of these players. It might be bad policy, but what's worse is if we reject the money going forward. That's, I think, what he would say.
And this is the thing that's been...
McGraw, I think that's a fundamental mistake for a couple of reasons. Okay, number one, This is not a short 1, 2, or 3 year commitment. This is a long-term, permanent commitment on behalf of this state. 25 states happen to agree with us. 25 states have not expanded. I would challenge the listeners and people who advocate this to research which states have AAA credit ratings and which ones don't, and then match up the correlation of that, of those who have let Medicaid run amok in the past and those who are not considering expansion now.
The only thing I want to say, go ahead,
and there's going to be a strong correlation between the long-term fiscal health of the state and control of this program. So we're going to look at it very carefully.
I mean, this is the thing that I'm really having trouble with. You know, we as Missourians elect legislators, we elect a governor, we elect state officials. We also elect congressmen and we elect senators, okay? They take care of our federal business. I want my state officials to do what's best for the state, not because they disagree with the federal. If you disagree with the federal law, run for Congress, run for Senate, and go get it changed. But to shortchange the idea that we're paying tax dollars into the federal coffer and we're not getting that money back out in health care is, I mean, it's like, you know, you have a fiduciary duty to the state, not to what you think about federal law. And it's better for our state to get this infusion of Medicaid dollars. And I also disagree.
It is not. That has not been proven.
Well, and I also disagree that if in 3 years after the match runs out, the U.S. Supreme Court held that in no way could the federal government take away Medicaid dollars that are already given to the states, that Missouri could be no better off than they are before they take the expansion. So if they go in for 3 years and determine, one, it's a really bad idea, or two, the state of Missouri can't afford the 10% match, which would kick in 3 years, then Missouri can say, no, we're now going to reject the expansion, and the feds can only take you back to where you were before you took the expansion. How is that? It's a low-risk proposition. It's not a long-term deal.
So we're going to try to get through the General Assembly then in 3 years, a bill which throws hundreds and thousands of people off Medicaid. I seem to remember us doing that back in 2005.
That's right. Throwing people off of health care is dumb. That's right. And people hate it.
What we're advocating is that we're going to do this now in 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay, we're just going to throw these people off in 3 years.
So
I mean,
it's
that's
better
why
to
you
just
get
never put them on.
Right.
No, I
yeah,
think the
right.
idea is, again, that misses the point, McGraw, and I think that's a little unfair. The idea is get a solution that works not only now, but in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I go
Nobody
back
knows
to
it won't work.
the documentary I did on gambling. You moderated the panel discussion. We were told that all the states around us are allowing gambling. Let's take the money. It's going to fix the education system. We won't have problems in education. It'll fix economies. Well, you know what? East St. Louis is still East St. Louis, and our education system's still broken, and everybody's got gambling. We didn't come up with a solution that was a mid to long-term solution. We just grabbed money and created a worse situation.
That's Jay Kanzler, and yes, I did moderate that panel, and that was a great movie, by the way.
Thank you.
Where can we see that movie?
You can't, because I used a song in it that I couldn't ultimately pay for at the end.
Oh, I mean, communism.
Yeah.
It's freaking communism.
Come on.
Capitalism.
What you should have done is you should have gotten Kit Bond to lobby for you. That's what you should have done.
Exactly.
Come on.
That's Jay Kanzler, who breaks copyright infringement laws all over the place. John Deal's on the phone. Jane Duker here in studio, 9:35, Big 550 KTRS.